Tokugawa Ieyasu was the founder and first shogun of the Tokugawa shogunate of Japan. As one of Japan's great unifiers, alongside Oda Nobunaga and Toyotomi Hideyoshi, he rose from humble beginnings as the son of a minor daimyo, feudal lord, to become a key figure in Japanese history. After serving as a hostage under daimyo Imagawa Yoshimoto, Ieyasu succeeded his father as a proper daimyo and allied with the powerful Oda clan, ultimately consolidating his strength and leadership after the Battle of Sekigahara in 1600. Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. If you're new here, it's good to meet you, and if you're coming back, it's a pleasure to have you here again. If you want to support the channel, consider taking a look at my Patreon, where all the videos are ad-free. Otherwise, like and subscribe if you're yet to do so. Without further ado, let's get on to our video for today. A biography of Tokugawa Ieyasu. Tokugawa Ieyasu, originally named Matsudaira Takechiyo, was born in Okazaki Castle on the 26th day of the 12th month of the 11th year of Tenbun, according to the Japanese calendar. One must remember they had a calendar of their own, much like the Chinese. His parents were Matsudaira Hirotada, the daimyo of Mikawa and the Matsudaira clan, and Odai Nokata, the daughter of a neighboring samurai lord, Mizuno Tadumasa. Despite being step-siblings, his parents were 17 and 15 years old respectively when Takechiyo was born. In the year of his birth, the Matsudaira clan faced internal strife. In 1543, Hirotada's uncle, Matsudaira Nobutaka, defected to the Oda clan, emboldening Oda Nobuhide to attack Okazaki. Following this, Hirotada's father-in-law passed away, and his heir, Mizuno Nobumoto, renewed the clan's animosity towards the Matsudaira by aligning themselves with Oda Nobuhide. Consequently, Hirotada divorced Odai Nokata and sent her back to her family. After that, Hirotada entered into new marriages, resulting in Takechiyo gaining 11 half-siblings. Remember, Tokugawa Ieyasu was originally named Matsudaira Takechiyo, so for the times he was going by the name of Takechiyo, we will refer to him as such. Amid Oda Nobuhide's persistent assaults on Okazaki, Hirotada returned to his influential neighbor to the east, Imagawa Yoshimoto, seeking assistance. Yoshimoto agreed to an alliance, under the condition that Hirotada send his young heir to the Senpu domain as a hostage. Oda Nobuhide intercepted this plan and orchestrated the abduction of Takechiyo, who was merely a 5-year-old at this time. Nobuhide issued a dire ultimatum, threatening to execute Takechiyo unless Hirotada severed all ties with the Imagawa clan. Despite Hirotada's steadfast refusal, Nobuhide detained Takechiyo for the subsequent 3 years at Honshoji Temple in Nagoya. Legend has it that Nobunaga crossed paths with Takeda at this location when Takeda was 6 years old and Nobunaga was 14. In 1549, at the tender age of 6 years old, Takeda faced another tumultuous event, the murder of his father Hirotada, orchestrated by his own vassals, who had received bribes, and rather generous ones, from the Oda clan. This tragic event coincided with Oda Nobuhide's demise due to an epidemic, inflicting a severe blow upon the Oda clan. The year 1551 brought further upheaval when an army commanded by Imagawa Sesai besieged the castle where Oda Nobuhiro, Nobuhide's illegitimate eldest son, was residing. Trapped by the Imagawa clan, Nobuhiro's fate shifted when Oda Nobunaga, Nobuhide's second son and heir, intervened through negotiations. Sesai struck a pact with Nobunaga to repatriate Takeda to the Imagawa clan, a proposition which Nobunaga agreed to. Consequently, Takeda, now 9 years old, became a hostage once again, this time to the Imagawa clan, remaining in Sunbu until 1556, when he reached the age of 14. In 1556, Takeda underwent his Genbuku ceremony, signifying his official transition into adulthood under the guidance of Imagawa Yoshimoto. Embracing tradition, he adopted the name Matsudaira Jirosaburo Motonobu. During this time, he briefly returned to Okazaki to pay homage to his father's tomb and receive the allegiance of his nominal retainers, led by the Karo Tori Tadayoshi. At the age of 15, Takeda married Lady Tsukiyama, a relative of Imagawa Yoshimoto, assuming the name Matsudaira Kurandanosuke Motoyasu. Within a year, their son, Matsudaira Nobuyasu, was born, after which Takeda was permitted to return to Mikawa province. Tasked by the Imagawa clan, he engaged in battles against the Oda clan, commencing with the siege of Terabe in 1558. Despite Suzuki Shigeru's betrayal of the Imagawa to Oda Nobunaga, Motoyasu and his retainers launched an attack, ultimately burning down the main castle and repelling Oda's army's assault on their rear lines. In the following year, he played a crucial role in the siege of Odaka, the lone fortress among 5 disputed frontier forts remaining under Imagawa control. Through diversionary tactics on neighboring forts, he successfully facilitated the delivery of supplies to Odaka, ensuring its resilience against the Oda clan forces. By 1559, Oda Nobunaga had assumed leadership of the Oda clan. In 1560, Imagawa Yoshimoto, commanding a formidable army of 25,000 soldiers, launched an attack into Oda territory. Meanwhile, Motoyasu, that is, Tokugawa's new name, remember, Motoyasu received orders to undertake a distinct mission, to capture the stronghold of Marune. Consequently, he and his troops were absent during the Battle of Okehazama, where Yoshimoto fell victim to Nobunaga's unexpected ambush. With the demise of Yoshimoto and the ensuing chaos within the Imagawa clan, Motoyasu seized the opportunity to assert his autonomy, reclaiming his ancestral seat at the abandoned Okazaki castle. Recognizing the need for strategic alliances, Motoyasu sought to collaborate with Oda Nobunaga, necessitating a clandestine arrangement due to the captivity of his wife, Lady Tsukiyama, and son, Nobuyasu, held hostage by Imagawa Ujizane, Yoshimoto's successor. In 1561, Motoyasu openly defied the Imagawa clan by capturing the fortress of Kaminogo, employing stealth tactics orchestrated by forces under Hattori Hanzo, who infiltrated the castle under the cover of darkness, resulting in its fiery downfall and the capture of Udono Nagamochi's 2 sons as leverage for the release of Motoyasu's family. In 1563, Matsudaira Nobuyasu, Motoyasu's eldest son, entered into matrimony with Oda Nobunaga's daughter, Tokuhime. Meanwhile, Motoyasu underwent a significant transformation, adopting the name Matsudaira Ieyasu in February 1563. Over the ensuing years, Ieyasu dedicated himself to revitalizing the Matsudaira clan and subduing unrest in Mikawa, bolstering his key allies and confronting challenges posed to the Ikoiki movement, that was a peasant uprising led by militant monks of the Jodo Shinshu sect, culminating in battles such as the Battle of Azukazaka in 1564. On January the 15th, 1564, Ieyasu made the pivotal decision to concentrate his forces and launch an assault to eradicate the Ikoiki from Mikawa. Despite facing desertion from some of his own vassals, who sympathized with the rebellion, such as Honda Masanobu and Natsume Yoshinobu. Engaging in the front lines, Ieyasu narrowly escaped death when struck by several bullets that failed to penetrate his armor, highlighting the adoption of gunpowder weapons introduced by the Portuguese 2 decades earlier. Following a fierce battle, the Ikoiki were vanquished and defeated. This solidified Ieyasu's control over Mikawa province by 1565. In 1567, Ieyasu initiated the establishment of the Tokugawa family name, formally adopting the title Tokugawa Ieyasu. Despite hailing from the Matsudaira clan, with claimed descent from the Seiwa Genji branch of the Minamoto clan, the Matsudaira's ancestral link to Emperor Seiwa lacked substantial evidence. Nevertheless, Ieyasu successfully petitioned the imperial court for a name change, securing the courtesy title Mikawa no Kami, the Lord of Mikawa, and the court rank of Junior 5th rank lower grade. Now, despite their newfound autonomy, the Tokugawa remained under the influence of Nobunaga, with Ieyasu maintaining allegiance to Nobunaga and contributing Mikawa soldiers to his army during the capture of Kyoto in 1568. Simultaneously, Ieyasu aimed to expand eastward into Totomi province, forging an alliance with Takeda Shingen of the Takeda clan to help seize Imagawa territory. In 1569, Ieyasu's forces advanced into Totomi province, while Takeda Shingen's troops seized Suruga province, including the Imagawa capital of Sunbu. Pursued to Kakegawa Castle, Imagawa Ujizane sought refuge as Ieyasu besieged the stronghold. Negotiating with Ujizane, Ieyasu offered to assist in regaining Suruga if Ujizane would surrender Totomi province. With nothing to lose, Ujizane decided to capitulate, prompting Ieyasu to terminate his alliance with Takeda and instead forge a new pact with Takeda's adversary, Uesugi Kenshin of the Uesugi clan. These strategic maneuvers garnered the support of the samurai in Totomi province. In 1570, Ieyasu designated Hamamatsu as his new territorial capital, entrusting his son, Nobuyasu, with leadership in Okazaki. In mid-1570, Azai Nagamasa, Nobunaga's brother-in-law, betrayed their alliance during the siege of Kanagasaki, prompting Nobunaga to prepare to confront Nagamasa for his disloyalty. Ieyasu, leading 5,000 of his men, joined forces with Nobunaga for the Battle of Anagawa near Lake Biwa in Omi province. Together, they defeated the combined armies of the Azai and Asakura clans, marking the first collaborative victory between the two of them. Following this conflict, Takeda Shingen, in October 1571, terminated the alliance with the Oda Tokugawa coalition and aligned with the Odawara Hojo clan, setting sights on Kyoto at the behest of the shogun Ashikaga Yoshiaki. Initiating his campaign against Ieyasu, Shingen targeted key Tokugawa territories in Totomi, including Nishikawa, Yoshika, and Futamata castles. Despite the initial setbacks, Ieyasu rallied support from Nobunaga, and the two clashed with Shingen's forces at the Battle of Sekigahara in 1573. Outnumbered, Ieyasu suffered a significant defeat, but orchestrated a strategic withdrawal, feigning a dignified reception upon retreat to sow confusion among the Takeda ranks. This ruse thwarted Shingen's attempt to besiege Hamamatsu Castle, ultimately leading to the collapse of the Takeda offensive. Following Shingen's demise in 1573, his son, Takeda Katsuyori, inherited the leadership, but he proved to be less formidable. In subsequent arrangements, including the siege of Nagashino Castle in 1575, Ieyasu enlisted Nobunaga's aid to repel Takeda incursions. Despite sustaining heavy losses, Ieyasu emerged victorious, solidifying control over Suruga province and weakening the Takeda clan's grip on the region. In 1579, accusations of collusion with Takeda Katsuyori led to the execution of Ieyasu's wife, Lady Tsukiyama, and the forced life-taking of his heir, Nobuyasu. Ieyasu then designated his third son, Tokugawa Hidetada, as his new successor. Subsequent conflicts culminated in the Second Siege of Takatenjin in 1580–81, followed by the conquest of Kai province in 1582, which culminated in Takeda Katsuyori's defeat and seppuku at the Battle of Tenmokuzan. However, amidst the triumph, news of Nobunaga's demise at the Honjoji incident in June 1582 reached Ieyasu during a tour of the Kansai region. Mobilizing his forces, Ieyasu, with the assistance of his retainer Hattori Hanzo, eluded Akechi Mitsuhide's troops and strategically navigated through hostile territories, eventually returning to Mikawa. His return coincided with Toyotomi Hideyoshi's victory over Matsuhide at the Battle of Yamazaki, marking a pivotal moment in Japan's tumultuous power struggles. Following Oda Nobunaga's death at Honnoji Temple, a Kai province lord's fatal mistake of killing one of Ieyasu's aides prompted Ieyasu to swiftly invade Kai and seize control. In response, Hojo Ujimasa mobilized a larger army into Shinano province, and then Kai province. Eventually a settlement was reached, granting Ieyasu domain over both provinces, while the Hojo clan gained control of Kazusa province alongside portions of Kai and Shinano. In 1583, a struggle for dominance erupted between Toyotomi Hideyoshi and Shibata Katsuie. Yet Ieyasu refrained from taking sides, maintaining his reputation for prudence and sagacity. Hideyoshi's victory at the Battle of Shizukatake propelled him to preeminence in Japan. However, in 1581, Ieyasu risked the Tokugawa clan's survival by backing Oda Nobukatsu, Nobunaga's eldest living son, against Toyotomi Hideyoshi. Tokugawa forces secured the Oda stronghold of Owari, prompting Hideyoshi to retaliate by sending an army into Owari, marking the commencement of the Komaki and Nagakute campaign, the sole instance where Japan's great unifiers clashed. The campaign culminated in a stalemate, leading to negotiations between Hideyoshi and Ieyasu. Hideyoshi first reconciled with Oda Nobukatsu, before extending a truce to Ieyasu. Terms were finalized by year-end, including the adoption of Ieyasu's second son, Ogimaru, by Hideyoshi, while Ieyasu's aide, Ishikawa Kazumasa, aligned with Hideyoshi in Osaka. Few other Tokugawa retainers followed suit. Due to understandable distrust, 5 years elapsed before Hideyoshi and Ieyasu fought as allies again. The Tokugawa abstained from Hideyoshi's successful invasion of Shikoku in 1585 and the Kyushu campaign of 1587. In 1590, Hideyoshi launched an assault on the last independent daimyo in Japan, Hojo Ujimasa, whose clan ruled the 8 provinces of the Kanto region. Despite his friendship and occasional alliance with Ujimasa, Ieyasu joined forces with Hideyoshi, contributing his sizable army of 30,000 samurai to Hideyoshi's massive force of approximately 160,000. The Odawara campaign marked the inaugural joint operation of Ieyasu and Hideyoshi. While most of their troops besieged various Hojo castles, the bulk of the army focused on capturing Odawara Castle. After a 6-month siege, with minimal casualties on both sides, Hideyoshi proposed a radical exchange to Ieyasu. The 8 Kanto provinces, in exchange for the 5 provinces under Ieyasu's control, including his home province of Mikawa. Ieyasu agreed to this, and the overwhelmed Hojo clan capitulated. Their leaders took their own lives, enabling Ieyasu to assume control of their provinces easily, thus ending their century-long reign. Furthermore, during the siege of Odawara, the Sanohei faction of the Nanbu clan, led by Nanbu Nobunaga, pledged allegiance to Hideyoshi. In return, Nobunaga was acknowledged as the clan chieftain and confirmed as daimyo of his existing holdings in the northern district of Mutsu province. However, Kunohei Masazane, lord of Kunohei Castle and the leader of the Kunohei faction, contested Nobunaga's claim and began a rebellion. Hideyoshi and Ieyasu perceived the Kunohei rebellion as a challenge to Toyotomi authority, and swiftly organized a retaliatory army to reclaim northern Tohoku and reinstate control under Nanbu Nobunaga's leadership. In 1591, Ieyasu relinquished control of his 5 provinces, Mikawa, Totomi, Suruga, Shinano, and Kai, and relocated all of his soldiers and vassals to his new domain, encompassing the 8 provinces of the Kanto region. He established himself in the castle town of Edo, a move considered one of the riskiest in his career, as it relied on the uncertain loyalty of the former Hojo samurai in Kanto. However, this gamble proved to be highly successful for Ieyasu. He reorganized and pacified the region, gaining the allegiance of the Hojo samurai and enhancing the economic infrastructure. Kanto's relative isolation allowed Ieyasu to forge alliances with daimyos from northeastern Japan, such as Date Masamune and Mogami Yoshiaki, while maintaining a level of autonomy from Hideyoshi's authority. Within a few years, Ieyasu emerged as the second most powerful daimyo in Japan, a feat encapsulated in the Japanese proverb, Ieyasu won the empire by retreating. During the Korean campaign of 1592, led by Hideyoshi as part of his grand strategy to conquer China, the Tokugawa samurai refrained from participation. In 1593, as Hideyoshi's health began to deteriorate, he fathered a son and an heir. Toyotomi Hideyori Ieyasu was summoned to Hideyoshi's court in Nagoya as a military advisor and entrusted with commanding reserve troops for the Korean campaign. Despite intermittent absences, Ieyasu's sons, loyal retainers, and vassals effectively managed and developed Edo and the newly acquired Tokugawa territories. However, the staggering costs of the Korean invasions weakened the Toyotomi clan's influence in Japan. In 1598, with Hideyoshi's demise ever more imminent, he convened a meeting to establish the Council of Five Elders, responsible for governing on behalf of his young son Hideyori. The council, comprising of Maeda Toshie, Mori Terumoto, Ukita Hidie, and Uesugi Kakegutsu, and Ieyasu, of course, marked a significant shift in the pre-Sekigahara power dynamics. As Hideyoshi passed away in September 1598, Ieyasu began forging alliances with daimyos, opposed to Hideyoshi's rule. Additionally, the death of Maeda Toshie in 1599 further altered the political landscape. Following the deaths of Hideyoshi in 1598 and Maeda Toshie in 1599, Ieyasu sieged Osaka Castle, Hideyori's residence, which incited opposition from the remaining three regents. Tensions escalated, and preparations for conflict were made on all fronts. The focal point of opposition against Ieyasu emerged around Ishida Mitsunari, a prominent daimyo and former top administrator in Hideyoshi's government. Mitsunari plotted Ieyasu's demise, prompting some of Ieyasu's generals to attempt his assassination. Surprisingly, Ieyasu extended protection to Mitsunari, possibly recognizing the strategic advantage of having him lead the enemy forces instead of the regents, who held much greater legitimacy. Japan's daimyo and samurai divided into two factions: the Western army, led by Mitsunari, and the Eastern army, led by Ieyasu. Ieyasu gathered support from allies such as Kiyomasa, Masanori, and Yoshiaki, among others, while Mitsunari aligned with regents and daimyos from western Japan. Tensions escalated further when Uesugi Kakegatsu, one of Hideyoshi's regents, fortified his military at Aizu in defiance of Ieyasu's demands. In response to this, Ieyasu mobilized his forces, accusing the Uesugi clan of planning a rebellion. By the July of 1600, Ieyasu had returned to Edo, while his allies moved their armies to confront the Uesugi clan. On September 8th, news arrived that Mitsunari's forces had captured Fushimi Castle and were advancing against Ieyasu. Ieyasu convened with the Eastern Army daimyo, solidifying his commitment to the cause. It was then when the decisive Battle of Sekigahara unfolded on October 20th, 1600, where Ieyasu's Eastern Army clashed with Mitsunari's Western Army. Despite setbacks such as Hidetada's delayed arrival due to a skirmish in Shinano province, Ieyasu emerged victorious. This is indeed a pivotal moment in Japanese history, and I will do a full video on this battle in particular. The Battle of Sekigahara, one of the largest and most significant conflicts in Japanese feudal history. Well, it certainly deserves its own video. Initially, Tokugawa's Eastern Army numbered around 75,000 men, while Mitsunari's Western Army boasted at around 120,000 soldiers. Ieyasu had the strategic advantage of secretly supplying his forces with arquebuses. Now remember, the Portuguese had come a little bit earlier, and this was generally a new technology, but quite a powerful one, if you could get your hands on it. Anticipating the Tokugawa advance towards Osaka, Mitsunari abandoned his position and marched to Sekigahara. Despite the tactical superiority of the Western Army, Ieyasu had already secured alliances with many daimyo within Mitsunari's ranks, offering them land and clemency post-battle. Additionally, Ieyasu had covertly communicated with Toyotomi Hideyoshi's nephew, Hideaki. As 170,000 troops faced off, the battle commenced, culminating in a decisive victory for Tokugawa's forces. Following the triumph, Ieyasu redistributed land among his loyal vassals, sparing some western daimyo such as the Shimazu clan while dismantling others entirely. Toyotomi Hideyori, the son of Hideyoshi, saw most of his territories under the control of western daimyo lost, relegating him to a mere daimyo status rather than a ruler of Japan. Those who pledged allegiance to Ieyasu before Sekigahara were termed feudal daimyo, while those who did so afterward were considered tozama daimyo and were viewed as inferior daimyo. On March 24th, 1603, now at the age of 60 years old, Tokugawa Ieyasu was bestowed with the prestigious title of Shogun by Emperor Go-Yozei. By achieving this honor, Ieyasu surpassed his contemporaries, including Nobunaga, Shingen, Hideyoshi, and Kenshin. As shogun, he decided his remaining years to be establishing and strengthening the Tokugawa shogunate, which marked the beginning of the Edo period and became the third shogunal government in Japanese history, following the Kamakura and Ashikaga periods. Claiming descent from the Minamoto clan, who founded the Kamakura shogunate through the Nita clan, Ieyasu's descendants would later form alliances with the Taira clan and the Fujiwara clan. The Tokugawa shogunate would go on to govern Japan for the ensuing 260 years. Following a tradition deeply ingrained in Japanese culture, Ieyasu voluntarily relinquished his position as shogun in 1605. His successor was his son, Tokugawa Hidetada. Multiple factors may have influenced Ieyasu's decision, including a desire to avoid ceremonial obligations, to obscure the true locus of power from potential adversaries, and to ensure a smooth transition of authority to his successor. Despite his abdication, Ieyasu retained practical control over the government and continued to wield significant influence. Nevertheless, Hidetada assumed the formal role as the head of the shogunal bureaucracy. From 1605 onward, as the retired shogun, Ieyasu continued to work behind the scenes. While residing in Sunpu Castle, Ieyasu oversaw the monumental construction of Edo Castle, a project that consumed the remainder of his life. The result was the largest castle in Japan, with costs borne by other daimyo, while Ieyasu simply reaped the benefits. Although the central donjon, or tenshu, was destroyed in the Meireki fire of 1657, today the site is occupied by the imperial palace. In 1611, Ieyasu led a procession of 50,000 men to Kyoto to attend the enthronement of Emperor Go-Mizuno. During his stay in Kyoto, Ieyasu initiated renovations to the imperial court and compelled remaining western daimyo to pledge allegiance to him. I imagine at this point that it probably wouldn't have been a hard sell. In 1613, he formulated the Kuge Shohato, that's the rules for court nobles, placing court daimyo under strict supervision and reducing their authority to mere ceremonial roles. Subsequently, in 1615, Ieyasu established the laws for the military houses, delineating the governance structure of the Tokugawa regime. In his capacity as Ogosho, that's the retired shogun, Ieyasu managed diplomatic relations with European powers, such as the Netherlands, Spain, and England. From 1609 onwards, he began distancing Japan from European influence, although the Dutch East India Company retained trading privileges and a trading post under his regime. Throughout this period, Ieyasu frequently sought counsel from William Adams, an English shipwright and pilot fluent in Japanese. Adams played a key role in negotiating trade agreements, but his presence was contested by rival Catholic factions, including Jesuits and Spanish missionaries, who viewed him as an impediment to Catholic influence in Japan. And if you're wondering how the Catholics were treated in Japan, well, I recently made a video about that too. Efforts to restrict the influence of Christian missionaries intensified during Ieyasu's rule. In 1614, he issued a Christian expulsion edict, banning the practice of Christianity and expelling foreign missionaries, citing concerns about Spanish territorial ambitions and the potential for invasion. This edict marked the end of open Christian activities in Japan until around the late 19th century, prompted in part by the Okamoto Daihachi incident, a case of fraud involving a Catholic vassal of Ieyasu. It didn't help that the Catholics were organizing militias as well. That didn't look very good. The last significant challenge to Ieyasu's authority came from Toyotomi Hideyori, the son and heir of Toyotomi Hideyoshi. Hideyori, residing in Osaka Castle, which is beautiful by the way, you should go there, became a focal point for samurai opposed to Ieyasu's rule, rallying around the belief that Hideyori was the legitimate ruler of Japan. In 1614, Tensions escalated when Ieyasu took issue with the opening ceremony of a temple that was sponsored by Hideyori, interpreting it as a veiled wish for his demise and the downfall of the Tokugawa clan. He then demanded Hideyori to vacate the Osaka castle, but the occupants resisted and called upon samurai to their defense. Consequently, Tokugawa's forces, led by Ieyasu himself and his son Hidetada, initiated a siege of Osaka Castle, known as the Winter Siege of Osaka. Despite initial resistance, negotiations ensued, and an armistice was reached after threats against Hideyori's mother. Not cool. Forced concessions from defenders. Yeah, I don't know, you don't go after a guy's mum. That is just bad form, isn't it? Sorry to break character, but that is bad form. However, upon the conclusion of the treaty, Tokugawa forces filled the castle's outer moats with sand, enabling them to gain land through deception that they could not seize through combat. In the following year, Ieyasu launched another assault on Osaka Castle, known as the Summer Siege of Osaka, to eliminate Hideyori's remaining stronghold. The siege culminated in 1615 with the fall of Osaka Castle and the demise of nearly all of its defenders, including Hideyori, Yorodono, his mother, and their infant son. Despite pleas for mercy from Hideyori's wife, Senhime, who was also Ieyasu's granddaughter, Ieyasu refused to spare their lives. With the Toyotomi line extinguished, Ieyasu solidified the Tokugawa clan's dominance over Japan, and every single last remaining threat to his rule was simply gone. Well, I think with that we can end the story of Ieyasu Tokugawa. Bit of a longer one, of course, but a rather interesting character. I'd like to thank you again for joining me, and I'd like to thank my Mega Chad patron Stark Factory for his glorious contribution on the Patreon. Thank you, Stark Factory. I know you're listening. If you'd like to become a Mega Chad like Stark Factory, then how about you visit the Patreon and take a look? It's a pretty good deal. Or, if you're not inclined to do so, just keep enjoying the content. Thank you very much. I'll see you next time. Good night, everybody.